Welcome to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogrammed Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. And Chantal Donnelly, physical therapist and author of Settled, How to Find Calm in a Stress-Inducing World. We follow our guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us.
Welcome back to the ANEW Body Insight Podcast. We are back for the second half of our interview with 2023 IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year and Far Side of Fitness podcaster, Dr. Darian Parker. Dr. D gave us some insight into his unique approach to training and his anti-diet culture advocacy. We cannot wait to learn more. Welcome back, Dr. D.
Thank you for having me back again. It's a stimulating conversation,
Absolutely. I think you and I have a lot of parallels in our thinking, and our approach to working with people, I think, is rooted in compassion and empathy for them, for what they're trying to do, what they're going through, and how we can improve their health. So it's so nice to find a kindred spirit in this. I want to talk about you being the 2023 IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year. How did that come about? And tell us what you think are the most important skills that personal trainers today can adopt.
So it's pretty surreal. I mean, it was kind of a nice validation for being in the industry a long time, but you get nominated for it. And then there's a pretty rigorous process that you go through. There's a big selection committee, judges, the whole thing. And you get down to the top three, and then, you write a huge, essay, answer all these questions, the whole thing. And it was really an enjoyable process for me because I felt like, it really validated like what I do, and I told a story that probably a lot of people don't know, but I would love to share it with you because I think it kind of encapsulates my journey is, in training, you go through tough times. It's a hard business to be in. It's a really difficult business. The average lifespan as a trainer is 12 months. So I'm very blessed to have done this for 24 years now. But in my earlier days of training, this was before I became the GM of a private club. I was teaching Group X in addition to training. And one of the gentlemen who came into my class is a Black gentleman like myself. And this is a very high-end, wealthy community. And he was building his house there. And there's very few Black people in this community. And he saw me, he came in, he said, I came in to take this class to support you because I never see anybody like you around here. And then when I became the GM, he was a big supporter of mine. But then he told me a story about how important it was for people like us to succeed. And it's because of things like when he was building his house in this beautiful neighborhood in Las Vegas, that someone had hung a noose at the top of his house with a monkey in it, like a stuffed monkey type of thing. And so we have to combat that stuff. The only way we can do that, we got to be successful. We have to win. We have to work hard. And to me, that's my journey, is like fighting things like that, overcoming ridiculous behavior societally and those things. And that stuff still exists. So I felt like I had to succeed, in part because of things like that. There was no choice for me, I felt.
Yes.
And I think, winning the award was validation for all the hard work, all the struggle. And also, I think for my approach, which is just very different. I don't claim to be the smartest trainer or like I know the most. And I have a lot of education. And honestly, I really don't care about it that much. What I care about is making sure that people feel seen. And I feel like that's what they saw in me when I was selected, that I see people for who they are and I accept them and that I am a confidant for them. That's what I see myself as, a confidant and a companion. in my work. I don't see myself as a fitness person. I am just someone to spend time with who happens to have the skill set to help you with moving and being physically active. But my job is so much about just wrapping my arms around people and caring about them, you know.
So beautiful that is the journey and the mission for you, despite having, I'm sure, people discriminate against you and experiencing this even vicariously.
Yeah.
To hear a story like this about this man who had this horrific noose hanging from his house. I actually, and I'll never forget it. I was in Gainesville, Florida once and went to a church. I just drove by a church.
Yeah.
And it had a noose, and hanging from the noose was an Obama effigy.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I can't even tell you how that just disturbed me. It just broke my heart to see something like that. And we vicariously carry all of that trauma, especially for people of color.
Yep.
Tell me, did you have personal experiences similar to that also helped to fuel this compassionate side of you?
I mean, luckily, really not. I mean, I think it was never like direct. So I want to be clear with that. But, you know, I think, you know, when you're in an environment, you're one of the only people that looks like you. And especially for me, you know, I ran a very high-end club, super wealthy for 10 years. And I think I was the only Black director in our entire company that I worked for in 33 countries, you know. So that always weighed on me somewhat, that I had to represent, you know, if I need to be an example for someone who's coming up behind me, that they see me and that I succeeded. For me, success was just, it had to happen because of who I am and what I look like. And I just felt like excellence is required and it had to be a thing. So I always carried myself like that. And although it never was directly towards me, you know, you could feel certain things, you know, here and there. You feel it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's the thing here and there. But it was, I'm glad it was never overt, but certainly I always felt it, you know, indirectly here and there. But again, it just pushed me as like, I have to be excellent, you know?
Yes, I can totally relate. My dad is white and my mom is Thai. And I remember when he was driving me across the country, and I grew up in Boulder, which is a total hippie town. That's right. Thankfully, you know, it's kind of a rainbow hippie town. I never experienced any, you know, prejudice or weirdness, maybe a couple strange little taunts on the during recess, during school. But it wasn't until we went into like a restaurant, I think it was in the middle of the country, probably somewhere in Nebraska. And there were so many stares at us. People were just, they couldn't stop staring. And I'm like, why are they staring? And then I was thinking about it and like, oh, they're probably thinking, here's this white guy with this, I don't know what she is, little, you know, Latin creature, you know, people don't tend to know what I am when they see me, and thinking that we were together as a couple or something like
that's
that.
Right.
And so I just kept, you know, saying things like, hey, Dad, can you pass me the salt? Dad, what do you think of this? Hey, Dad, until people started to calm down. And I think we are subject to so much of that, just, you know, subtly and sometimes overtly. And I think for people of color, especially, we kind of feel like we need to prove ourselves in a way that, you know, Caucasian people don't, which is, I think, really sad. But at the same time, when we do, and when we do succeed, it really does send a message out to the world that is really important. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out and succeed. Of course not. You have worth just as you are. But if you can really try to be good at what you do, it also sends that clear message out there. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I just like excellence. I always have, you know, I feel like it's deeply inside of me. No matter what, it doesn't matter if I wasn't in fitness, no matter what I would have done, I want to be great. I want to be great at it. Like, I just like the process of becoming great at anything. I don't have to love it either. I just like putting in the effort to be great at stuff. And I feel like that's just anything that I try to do. I want to be really good at it. Understand it takes a lot of effort. And in training is the same way. In fitness, regardless, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the quote unquote repetitions. You have to, so how do you become a great trainer? You have to train a lot of people. You have to hustle. You have to like actually spend a lot of time working with people. And it's like anything. It's when you're a novice versus an expert, the novice, the information processing is really slow. You have to think about what you're doing. You just don't have the experience. You get better. You got to keep coming back. You got to hit that ball over and over again. You got to show up for your clients over and over again. See different types of clients, see different situations. And then it starts slowing down. And you're like, I know what's coming. No matter what comes, I know exactly what to do. No matter how someone shows up to this session, I got it. I have competence. Yeah. I have greatness inside me. And I'm not even going to sweat it,
How do you inspire the novice trainer to actually get out there and really go for clients? I think, we're in a generation, especially Gen Z, where they want to work smarter, not harder. What do you think of that? Do you think that actually sells themselves short? Do you believe that you have to pound the pavement? How can you inspire this new wave of trainers?
I mean, I think there's some validity to what they're saying. I mean, I don't agree with just like working yourself to the bone all the time and having no life. I like to have fun and enjoy myself, but I also think you can't skip the process either. And I think, the way current society is set up, it's a mirage. It's this mirage of like, well, there's a lot of options and maybe you can do this on the side or that on the side, and you can do all these different things, but you can't create mastery in something without giving yourself to it on some level. You just can't. Right. Like in greatness, you can't skip the steps to being great. And especially for new trainers, one, I think it's a reframing of like, you actually need to know what you're getting yourself into. I think too many new trainers think they're just going to work out a bunch of times, work with some clients, give them their version of what they think a good workout is. I just think we've set new trainers up to fail because we don't give them what reality is at all. And the reality is you're going to struggle in the beginning, and you're probably going to be pretty terrible at it in the beginning. It's okay to be bad at stuff when you first started. All right. But the other part is like, how do you improve? You have to put in the time. I think that's what turns people off sometimes to the training profession is like, it's so much time and effort to get clients. But this current generation, they're taught to get clients through social media. You're not getting clients that way. You need to actually get in the hole. No. You need to get into that bunker. You need to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. You need to go to meetup meetings. You need to meet people. You need to meet as many humans as possibly is that you can meet, because you're not just meeting them. You're meeting other people that will refer you to them for that.
Yes.
It's not everybody thinks it's like, I'm meeting this person. No, you're meeting like 10 other people when you're meeting one person. And then they're judging you immediately by how you come across, the person you are. And I was just saying this to another colleague of mine. I'm like, I think when you start with somebody, that's the biggest part of the whole thing. Within that first session, they've made a decision whether they're going to stay with you or not. And whether you're a weirdo to them, whether you seem incompetent, or whether they think you're a great guy or girl, whatever, you have to look at yourself and go, man, what do I bring to the table here? And you need to work on yourself. Yes. But that takes so much time. You can't skip the time. It's impossible. I hate to tell everyone, I agree. Just can't skip the time.
I agree wholeheartedly. The only way I built my practice, which is now pretty much completely full, was doing exactly that. I was responding to every single referral that I could possibly respond to. I was on every Facebook therapist group and trying to be the first one to respond to these referrals. I was joining my local psychological organizations and volunteering my time and meeting other therapists. who then are now referring their clients to me, or people that they can't see to me. And I really want to emphasize this to the younger generation who may want to, create their own fitness business, or if they want to go into something like therapy, especially private practice without taking insurance. That's a tough area to get into. You have to pound the pavement, and it's not something that you have to do consistently, crazily forever, but especially in the first part of your business, if you are not working as hard as you can, really keeping your eye on that goal, you're not going to get there just by wishful thinking. You really have to put in the work.
You're not manifesting it. I'm sorry. You're just not gonna. This is this generation too. I mean, they're awesome people. We talked about on my podcast. They're so socially minded, civic minded, environmentally minded. I love that. But you're not going to manifest your way to being great. You got to put in the dirty, grimy effort that involves with that. I mean, when I was in Vegas, when I was first starting out, I used to go to nightclubs, and I used to go to networking parties like 11, 12, midnight, sit there, talk to people, just BS with people, whatever there was, any networking event there was, I was there, trading business cards, chatting with people, just making sure people knew I existed in this town.
Yes.
I would meet all the other gym owners, whatever, just everything.
And I think people do, just to tag onto that manifesting myth, I do think that people really have a misconception about what manifesting truly is. Because yes, you have to think about your goal.
Yes.
You have to want your goal. You have to see it actually happening, and visualizing it happening is so important. But it doesn't stop there, you guys. You have to take and seize every opportunity that comes your way that will lead you toward that goal. It's not going to come to you just by sitting there and thinking and visualizing it. You actually have to get out of your chair, get off your phone, and really go and talk to people in person, online, however you can do it, because everything that you do in the fitness industry, or what we do as therapists, is about connecting with people. And if you're not connecting with people, it will never happen. For you, or it'll happen much slower, and you'll get frustrated because it's not happening instantaneously. So give me some pictures of other fitness myths in particular that you find, whether it's about a certain idea or whether it's certain products. Give us an idea of what you kind of explored on the podcast in terms of these myths.
Yeah. Well, I think, product wise, most of the products just don't work. I think it's just marketing. I mean, most of life is just marketing. You're getting marketed to constantly. So this gadget or that gadget, it may be cool and stuff, but most of it, there's really no data that say a lot of this stuff really works. Even just like wearables, right? I mean, everybody has one. I have one. Data's pretty mixed about it. Now, if you believe it works, I believe in the placebo effect too, that if you believe it works for you, okay, great for that. Yes. But I also think the fitness industry is just ripe for quackery, misinformation, myths. Forever it's the myths. I'm going to work my way out of my nutritional habits. What a terrible myth. It's just, I'm just going to work out so much that it doesn't matter what I do nutritionally. I mean, that's still around for a lot of people, actually. Yes. There's no data that supports that. I mean, it's just nope. It's just something someone told you and you held on to it and you didn't critically think that maybe this isn't true type of thing.
Exactly. I think all wild diet trends fall into that. Like the carnivore diet, you will be healthy if you eat only meat. Yeah. It's no, my goodness. Or, having one meal a day.
Sure.
And that being your only source of nutrition. I really think that people want to buy into these things because they want a quick fix. They want some kind of gadget or device or diet or whatever the product is to help them get to their goal as quick as possible. Tell me your view on all the quick fix ideas.
I mean, I think it's the same thing as like building up your business. There's no quick way to do it. And I think that's, we have designed our society to basically try to reward people for skipping the steps. It's like, okay, well, yes, or convenience is the main thing. Yes, I can order my food. It'll be here like magic in minutes and things of that nature. Meanwhile, the fact that you're not cooking is hurting you tremendously. You need to cook food. You need to be close to the things that you eat. And for that.
Yes.
And I think it's just human nature, though. I don't blame people for that. I think it's very deeply written inside of us, path of least resistance. We crave it. And marketing goes all towards it. But we know behind the scenes, this doesn't work. I just think about what I'm saying is, it's good that so many young people are doing resistance training now, and that a lot of people, different generations, are lifting weights. But it's like so extreme now. It's great that more people are lifting weights. I think it's great. But we do the same stuff that humans always do. We never go, maybe I should attack all these energy systems. But nope, let's spend 3 hours in the gym. It's actually ridiculous. Like, you're ignoring an entire energy system. Like,
yes, I agree. I think, in diet culture too, it's very similar. It's like you go to this extreme diet and that is what's going to get you there as quick as possible. And it may make you lose some muscle and water relatively quickly, but as soon as you go off the diet, your body bounces back because it does not like to be in restriction. I also think that there's a newer myth out there, and I probably will receive some flack about this, so I want to make sure that I'm wording this correct, as compassionately as possible. But I do believe that promotion of obesity as a disease is a myth.
Interesting.
And that's because if you look historically at weight and shape as we have evolved along, we really did not have as big of a problem with obesity until the industrialization
Correct.
and the processing of food. Once you started to tinker with kind of Mother Nature and creating these packaged foods full of preservatives and artificial colors and flavorings and things that we can't pronounce, that's when we really started to see the rise in obesity in this country. And also, I think the industrialization of big agriculture as well, and the promotion of certain macronutrients over others, like protein, like we talked about before. And since then, we've seen this kind of correlative rise in obesity to the point now where it is so prevalent in the country and in the world that they've classified it as a disease. Now, I understand classifying it as a way to reduce stigma, and I think that that's very important, that we destigmatize how we look at people who are considered overweight and obese. But I think taking and saying that obesity is a disease makes people powerless. And that invites, big pharma and diet culture to come in with the cure and getting that cure as fast as possible. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? That's interesting. I feel like I have to think about that, but the podcaster in me has questions for that.
Yeah.
And so
yes.
I'm not married to any of these thoughts, honestly, but I'm just curious about stuff. That's literally how I approach everything. So if it's not a disease, again, this isn't a judgment. And again, what would it be classified then as in your mind?
I would say that it is a man-made problem. Mm-hmm. So if we look at this, and it's not to say that industry is, evil or, out to get us or anything like that, but, we live in a country that is fueled by industry and capitalism, and we need to make money somehow. And the packaging of food was, revolutionary. It helped to bring food to so many people who were less food secure. So we want to make sure that we are cognizant of that. But when you look at kind of the trajectory of packaged foods, you find that it does not have people's best interests or their health at heart. You can see, that they bring in food scientists, they actually call them craveability experts, to make food more addictive in a sense and more palatable. And when you look at what goes behind that, a great book to read about that is Sugar, Salt, and Fat. It's just a really fascinating look into the food industry and how those practices, along with the aggressive marketing practices and how food is actually presented to us in the grocery store, is really manipulative.
For sure.
And it gets people to, not necessarily think about health. They want to think about getting food as cheaply as possibly, understandably, but to their own detriment. And then if you look at medicine and you look at healthcare, it's also more kind of sick care industry. Doctors are not incentivized to actually cure their patients. They're incentivized to provide them with, medicine and, repeated follow-up visits so they can actually stay in business. And certainly if you look at big pharma, oftentimes, yes, they're trying to cure, diseases, but it's really about attacking the symptom as opposed to the cause. Yeah. So I would say it's more financially driven, and it benefits these industries more than it benefits us.
And when you think about it too, like obesity is a recent human issue. It's a recent human issue.
Yes.
It's not like obesity has been a lifelong issue for humans over the course of the existence of humans. It's literally in the thousands and hundreds of thousands of years and beyond humanity. It's recent. It's like 60 years recent. Yeah. I'm curious about your thoughts about these, GLP-1s, especially because apparently there's some information that for the first time in a while, overweight and obesity has dropped. The percentage has dropped a bit. I wonder though, will that continue to drop, or do you think we're going to be able to attack this? Is the pharmacological approach actually going to work long term over time?
Well, I just recently saw a study that showed that 2/3 of people who go on these medications for weight loss don't stay on long enough to reach the kind of optimal dose. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, it's financial. For a lot of people, especially if they're just looking at it for weight loss, it's not necessarily covered by their insurance. And so they're shelling out anywhere between like $400 to over $1,000 a month to be on these medications. So I think a lot of people go on it with the kind of quick fix mentality, and then they go off of it. And what happens when you go off of it is you usually have a huge weight rebound. And the reason for that is because you have essentially put your entire body into a restrictive mode. It seems less voluntary, like if you were in a restrictive diet and you were hungry all the time because you're kind of taking out that the hunger feeling. You're also keeping food in the stomach for longer. But I think a lot of people are seeing problems with that in particular. Like people can't get surgeries because they even if they fast for 24 hours, they still have food in their stomach. And so they're unable to have these surgeries. So I look at that and I see just a wealth of problems that can come about. And that's not to say that will happen. I know that there's a bunch of different medications being formulated, such as pill form, and but right now it's kind of like the wild, wild west, and you see a lot of compounding pharmacies putting out questionable semaglutide compounded injections, some of them that just contain insulin, which is like completely frightening to me because people can go into a coma if they have too much insulin. So you see all of this happening, and I just know personally, and I know with my clients, that there's a natural way to do this. It's just not going to be this quick fix. It's something that you have to incorporate and put into practice on a long-term sustainable basis. Can people be on these for life? I have no idea. I really don't know. I think that there's going to be so many, issues with malnutrition, bone loss. I mean, you kind of name it in that way. And I just think that there's a better, more natural way. That's why I wrote my book. I just think we don't have to do this. And it doesn't have to be painful. We can tune into our body. We can become more self-aware. We can work on all of these negative thoughts and beliefs about ourselves and these incorrect beliefs about food, like carbs are bad, which is totally not true. Totally not true, you guys. Carbs are good. Carbs are good. We can reformulate that, and we can enjoy our food. Hunger isn't a bad thing, you guys. Hunger is your body's way of telling you it needs nutrition. It's a good thing. And when we give that to our body, and when we listen intently to what our bodies need, then our bodies feel safe. And when our bodies feel safe, that's when thermogenesis turns on. That's when we can actually burn off what we're hoping to burn off, which is fat. You agree?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's only one problem with this, I feel, is the things you're discussing are great. They're just not exciting to people. That's the problem, is doing things like this is not exciting. It's much more exciting.
I'm going to counter this. I will.
Let me hear. Hold on once, but it's just not exciting because it's not quick. We're an entertainment focused society. We love car crashes, entertainment, things that are exciting, things that are blown up, things that the promise of something bigger. Doing things the way you said, which obviously I promote, is just not something that people are that interested in. If they were, it would be way different out there. I just don't think there's a lot of interest in it for a lot of people as a society. Clearly, you and I know people that are into that, but on a large scale, no way. I'm not sure we're going to overcome that either. I'm not actually very optimistic about it. That's a very different take, but I think I'm not very optimistic about it. I just people don't like what you talked about. We talked about going basically door to door, working hard to build up your business, going to different events. There's not a lot of people that have interest in that. There's not a lot of interest in that. That's not exciting. I think about the people who are most successful that I've ever met in my life. There are very few people who are willing to actually go through the gauntlet. It's actually not a lot of people. It's very few people.
It is true. I will counter, though, that when I teach people how to listen to their bodies, and they actually do it, and they open up rather than restrict their food choices, and they see that they're losing weight, it might not be the 3 to 5 pounds they're hoping for per week. I actually do see this profound change because they realize that the path that they can take is one of joy as opposed to punishment. And so that's what I'm really hoping for. Whether or not I can create the revolution I'm hoping for or you're hoping for, we don't know. Because we do live in this, we need this now kind of society. But what we are seeing is that it's not sustainable.
Sure.
And what I really hope is that people like us can ignite this fire, this inspiration in people to actually start to delve within, to listen to themselves more than they're listening to the expert out there, to start to love themselves as they are now, and then listening and tuning into their bodies because their bodies are telling them exactly what they need. And if that can just take hold in, say it's like even just 5% of society, let's think about how that may compound and become exponential. Like you said, you're not just talking to one person when you're, out there networking, you're actually talking to 10 people. Yeah. So I feel like if we can actually show the way to just that one person, then they can be the light bearers to show others around them. And who knows, man?
I think we have to solve other issues before this. I really do. We need to release the chains off of humans so they can actually focus on themselves. Those are way bigger issues, I think, that we're just keeping people down, quite quite a bit in our country.
Yeah.
And if we don't solve those,
Yes.
it's really hard to focus on yourself. People get rid of their own desires to try to stay afloat. And, whether it's jobs, whether it's healthcare, whether it's housing, I think we have to solve those things so that people can feel free to actually start living the life they want to live for that. It's so hard when those needs are not met. The basic needs of humans need to be met first for us to be in the society I think we really want to be in. And I think we're fighting against that. People like you and I are like living in a system that people are already down and they're on a wheel. But if we could take away the stress of having to work a job just for healthcare, that's insane. That's insane to me.
I know.
Like people are making choices for places they want to work just because they can get health insurance. That should never be a thing for humans.
I know.
You should have a right to have a decent place to live in your life. We got to solve those things. And I think the other things will be more amenable for us. I just don't, we need to have an appetite for that. But that goes back to environmentalism too. It's like, we got to start thinking about these bigger things and what it actually means. These are existential things in our lives.
Yes.
And I think we need to spend more time on this stuff. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that your podcast is so important for that, giving people a different perspective, humanizing our journey is so important. Bringing to light these issues, that's a part of my journey as a podcaster and just as a psychologist and as a human being. I think it's so important. And these are really big issues, but just having these conversations, I think is so important.
Agreed.
In starting us on this pathway. So hopefully there's people out there who are listening who are inspired to try to take a different route, who are not so concerned about the quick fix, but maybe about creating something sustainable and joyful moving forward while expanding their awareness to others and those in need. Dr. D, we're out of time. I could sit here and talk.
Keeps happening,
all day. We have got to continue this and do another swap at some time soon, because you are just so wonderful to sit in front of. You're so compassionate and kind and empathetic. And we just need more people out there like you.
Thank you, Supatra. I appreciate you.
Yay. Well, thank you all for tuning into the New Body Insight podcast. We look forward to our next exciting interview, and we really hope you join us next time. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks for tuning into the A New Body Insight podcast. Please remember, the content shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the A New Body Insight podcast tab. Follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.